back in the capital, Bhishma realizes that the Pandavas are back. There is jubilation. Not only are they back, but there is a new princess for their kingdom. They all kind of say, okay, well, it's kind of weird that she's married to 5 people. They could have done a different thing there, but nonetheless, they have a king, they have a queen, but things cannot go back to normal. The line has been crossed. Bhishma wants to prevent a palace kind of a war internal in the palace, so he divides the kingdom into 2, giving half to Pandavas, half to the Kauravas, and then Yudhishtira goes off to his part of the kingdom. It's a new city that he builds. It's called Indraprastha, and that is the city that we know today as Delhi. It goes all the way back, and he builds this new city, and as he sits down on the throne, Yudhishthira says he realizes an aspect of himself, a thing that he should do in order to be a just king. He says, Bhedona bhavita lokaha, bheda mulo hi nigrahaha. Bheda means difference. Bhedona bhavita lokaha means I will see no difference between myself and the ones that I am governing, my brothers or any of my citizens. All of us will be treated the same. Truly, I will choose to do it. Bhedona bhavita lokaha. I will see no difference between my children and your children. You're all children of God. This is how I will govern. What happens because of that? Bheda mulo hi nigrahaha. The origin of differences, of strife, of warfare, of needing to lie, of needing to commit violence, Bheda mula, the origin of differences, hi nigrahaha, will be eliminated. I will rule in this expansive way. I will expand myself to encompass my entire kingdom. He makes this pledge to himself, and he begins to rule his half of the kingdom. Evil is never happy when good is on the ascendant, especially with the lower age coming, isn't it? A just ruler like this is ruling in Indraprastha, his half of the great Kuru kingdom. And the Kauravas are ruling from their traditional capital where Bhishma is. Drona is also there. And one day, I'll skip over many interesting, wonderful, magical things that happen along the way. Suffice it to say that more marriages take place, more children are born, more magical weapons are used, and it's important through this that Arjuna grows from strength to strength to strength and becomes so obviously indomitable. And at the same time, Yudhishthira's kingdom prospers so much, not just materially, but otherwise. There is peace, harmony in the entire kingdom. People begin to talk that not since the reign of Rama back in the higher age of Treta have we seen such an ideal state as a nation state. Now one day Yudhishthira invites all the other kings and especially the Kauravas to his extraordinary palace. His palace has been constructed by Maya, the architect of gods. So it's an ethereal palace, and Duryodhana walks through the palace. He's jealous as he sees the opulence in this palace. And it's the architect of the gods. So there are many tricky things in the palace just meant to incite conversation and have people say, wow, what an extraordinary place. And there is a room with a floor of crystal. The crystal is so pure that you can see your reflection completely. And the skylights are arranged to let the light in such a way that there is a shimmering quality to the floor. Imagine that, if you will. And Duryodhana thinks that this is a pond within the palace. So he hikes up his lower garments and steps into it and plops on the crystal floor, and everybody is snickering, what an unrefined fellow is supposed to be the king, doesn't know the difference between floor and water. And then Duryodhana goes across, and there is another floor that looks exactly like that. He says, I won't make the same mistake again. He goes in and splosh, he gets into water because that's a real pool. Then he goes to the next room and he just stops there. He says, why are you stopping? No, 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 this is a door right in front of me. And they said, no, it's not a door. It's just cleverly constructed. It's a open room. And he feels more humiliated, and then he goes into the next one, bumps up against an actual door, thinking it's an open room, and he sees the wealth, the prosperity of the Pandavas, and his desire, his lust, his ambition just cannot handle it. So he goes to who? Of course, to Karna and to his uncle, Shakuni. Shakuni once again tells him, see, one thing about Shakuni is he knows the weaknesses of everybody. He knows the secrets of everybody. Shakuni even knows that Karna is the eldest of the Pandavas, but he keeps it all to himself. There is one other person who knows in this way. I'll tell you who that is in a moment. Then he goes to Shakuni, and Shakuni says, you know, Duryodhana, again, like I told you before, Pandavas are very powerful. You cannot take them on, but Yudhishtira has a weakness. This man, this just embodiment of Dharma, who is so expansive that he has eliminated strife in his kingdom, has a weakness for gambling. And he says, and as you know, I am the master of delusion. Nobody can beat me in a game of dice. So invite Yudhishtira formally to a game of dice, and then you will have what you want. And so it was that a few months later, in a specially constructed hall, a great assembly hall, Yudhishtira sat for a game of dice. I need to give you this context. It's not random that they played game of dice. It was the game of kings back in the day. Apparently, if you were a king, I have never been one myself, so very little knowledge of such things, but I'm given to understand that if you were a king and you were called for a game of dice, it's very bad form to say no. Okay, it's like being invited for a state dinner and refusing the local cuisine. It could cause an international incident. So Yudhishthira goes after being invited for a game of dice, and Yudhishthira and the Pandavas sit here in that hall, and the Duryodhana and Shakuni sit on the other side, and on a raised podium is the blind king Dhritarashtra, and then Bhishma is there, Drona is there, and all the courtiers and important citizens are all sitting. And the game of dice begins. And Shakuni is playing on behalf of Duryodhana. And Yudhishthira has a pearl necklace studded with gemstones and threaded with gold, and says casually, because these things, he probably has a lot of them, he says, as a beginning wager, let me wager this necklace. And Duryodhana, who has similar necklaces, these are kings, they have such things, and he wagers his necklace, and Shakuni rolls the dice. You have lost, he says. He has a high-pitched, little bit of a squeaky voice, and he says, you have lost. And Yudhishthira removes his necklace, gives it, and then Yudhishthira says, he's now getting caught up in the game. The thrill of the next wager is kind of giving him a lot of, what do you call that? A dopamine rush, I believe is what they call these days. So he says, I will wager my royal chariot with 80 fine horses. And he wagers it. Duryodhana does an appropriate wager. Shakuni rolls the dice. You have lost. And soon he loses his entire army. He loses all the contents of the armory, the horses, the stables. He loses his treasury. The more he loses, this is the mind of a gambler. The great Yudhishthira, who is expansive enough to eliminate all differences among his people, the more he wagers, the more he lives for the next wager. That's the mind of a gambler. Keep that in mind. So the more he loses, he says, next one I am going to win. Doesn't matter whether he wins or not. He just wants to gamble. He's getting more and more into the miasma of delusion. Now Shakuni knows this. Shakuni is an active force. His eyes are mesmerizing. He says, Yudhishthira, what will you wager next? And Yudhishthira says, I will wager my magical palace. The dice rolls. I win, says Shakuni. Yudhishthira has nothing else to wager. Shakuni looks at him. King, you're wrong. According to the law of the land, the ancient law that our forefathers made, you can wager your brothers. So Yudhishthira wagers the wise Sahadeva, you have lost. The handsome Nakula, you have lost. The indomitable Arjuna, you have lost. They are all now servants of the Kurus. A brief cloud passes over Yudhishthira's face with a dim realization that he has done something very, very wrong when he lost Arjuna. But such is the pull of the next wager that he ignores it. It passes as quickly as it comes, and then he wagers the powerful Bhishma. Karna and Duryodhana are sitting at the edge of their seat. They already have Arjuna. Roll the dice. You have lost. And then Yudhishthira himself is a little disheartened for a moment, but then he perks up. He says, I wager myself. Then what happens? Of course, he loses. He slumps a little bit. And then Shakuni looks at him. You still have something left. What is it? Draupadi. You can wager her, can't you?